Christ. We are in the midst of Holy Week, so I thought I'd just do a little devotional each day working from Matthew's Passion narrative. And today I'm actually starting before the Passion narrative begins, because I think this is a really important story. So I'm beginning at the beginning of chapter 26 of Matthew. So if you're reading along, it's Matthew 26, 1 through 16. When Jesus had finished saying all these things, he said to his disciples, "You know that after 2 days the Passover is coming, and the Son of Man will be handed over to be crucified." Then the chief priests and the elders of the people gathered in the palace of the high priest, who was called Caiaphas. And they conspired to arrest Jesus by stealth and kill him. But they said, "Not during the festival, or there will be a riot among the people." Now while Jesus was at Bethany and the house of Simon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster jar of very costly ointment, and she poured it on his head as he sat at the table. And when the disciples saw it, they were angry and said, "Why this waste? For this ointment could have been sold for a large sum and the money given to the poor." But Jesus, aware of this, said to them, "Why do you trouble the woman? She has performed a good service for me. For you will always have the poor with you, but you will not always have me. By pouring this ointment on my body, she has prepared me for burial. Truly I tell you, wherever this good news is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will be told in remembrance of her." Then one of the 12, who is called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, "What will you give me if I betray you?" They paid him 30 pieces of silver. From that moment, he began to look for an opportunity to betray him. They began to look for an opportunity to betray him. What I want you to think about today is whose actions we remember. Because oftentimes we remember the actions that in our day, get television time or get a lot of traffic on the internet. But it's often unnamed people who do something very significant that we might not even remember their action. Or we remember their action for years and years, but sometimes we can't even remember their name. But it's something that's so meaningful to us, something that someone did. And sometimes it's a small something, sometimes it's a large something. In this case, this unnamed woman anoints Jesus' feet before his burial. And now there's a couple different anointing stories of Jesus' feet. One gospel talks about a prostitute anointing Jesus' feet and wiping them with her hair. One talks about Mary of Bethany, that's Lazarus' sister, being the one who takes the costly ointment. The reality is, we're not sure if those are all the same story or if there's a couple different times when Jesus' feet get anointed. But what we do know is in Matthew's gospel, Jesus tells us that when the good news is proclaimed to the world, what she has done will be told in remembrance of her. And yet, as Matthew writes his gospel, we don't even remember her name. What I hope this does for you this week is inspires you to notice all those unnamed people, those missed people who maybe we've never said thank you to, who have shown us and lived out the gospel. As we start Holy Week, do remember all the people who have done something in remembrance of Christ and who really have shared the gospel with you. And during this time especially, if there's some of those significant stories that have never been told, share that story with somebody else who needs to hear the gospel. And remember that all the things that we do make a difference, the big and the small. I'll come to you again tomorrow with another part of the Passion narrative. God bless.